The activity topology is two. There are two distinctions in that. One is the physical topology, and the other one is the logical topology. Okay. Now, see, physical topology is something that we can see, and that is something that you did last time. Last time, what we did is we said that we've got multiple locations. Let's say we've got a Mumbai location, and we've got a Delhi location, and we've got some DCs in Mumbai, we've got some DCs in Delhi. And then we're saying that when they replicate with each other, we want to have a control over the replication. And that is why we defined a Mumbai site, we defined a Delhi site, and we created the links between both the sites. This is known as a physical topology. This is something that you can see. That is what you can see. A Delhi site is what you can see. And you can actually define it. So this is known as a physical topology. And the next one is known as a logical topology. Now let's understand the logical topology. Right? The logical topology goes like this. Now, we created a root domain. Let's say we created a root domain by the name of test.com, which is my, let's say, the first domain. And we've just been working with this domain. But in future, what we're going to do is under this domain, let's say this domain has got some domain controllers. Okay. This domain has got some of it, DC1, DC2. Okay. And then under this root domain, let's say I want to put another child domain. I want to put another smaller domain, which is known as a child domain. And I will call this branch.test.com. I don't know if you have something like this. Do you all have something like this? Do you have a root domain, child domain scenario?
I haven't seen it, to be honest.
Okay, that's fine. That's not a problem. Many organizations have a root domain and a child domain, right? In fact, many organizations, they create an empty root. Okay. The root domain will be empty, nothing. And each child domain would be something like a region. Like America is one region, America has one child domain, Europe has another child domain, Asia has another child domain, like that. They might work it out.
So the parent domain might not have anything as such in itself, apart from child domains.
Yes, exactly. And you need to be very clear about the concept of what is the difference between a root domain and a child domain. You need to be very clear about that. And this concept really relates to our daily life. Like, for example, let's say this top is your parents' house, and that is what I'm going to define by the root, right? And till the age of 20, 21, we are in the parents' house, and then we decide to branch out, and then we say, oh, let us get married, let's have our own house. Okay, this is your parents' house, and what the day that you plan to get married, and that's when you say that I want to start my own family, right? So this becomes your family that you start, and you branch out from your parents, right? Now, when you were in a parent's house, there's total control over what you could do. They had complete control over you. But the moment you started your own family out here, downwards here, right, that control goes away, isn't it? You are no longer under their direct control. No doubt there are certain things you listen and don't listen, but then you become partially independent. Yep. So this is that partial independence that we're talking about over here, right? Now you need to understand the root domain will have its own user account database. So that means in the root domain, if I have 1,000 users, that does not mean that I will see the same 1,000 users over here. The child domain can have its own user account database that might contain, let's say, just 100 users. The users that are created over here will not get replicated here. Please understand that. If I create, let us say, user XYZ over here, that same user will not be replicated over here. Understand that? Meaning, if you create an XYZ user over here, it will be replicated from DC1 to DC2. It will not come downwards. It will not come to the child domain, because the child domain will have its own database. It will have its own Active Directory database. Okay. Being a part of the root, there'll be certain things that will be shared. Being a part of the root, there are certain things that you share with your parents. We usually share our last names. Okay, so we know that, like for example, here it's the same thing. Test.com, and there's the last name, and then you have branch, which is a unique name, right? Not only the names, there are certain things that are shared between the root and the child. We're going to discuss that a little later on. Okay, so now please understand one thing. Any group policy that you apply over here will not apply over here, because the child domain will have its own group set of policies. Yeah, own set of policies. You might have noticed every domain has got something known as a default domain policy. Okay, so same way here also there will be a separate default domain policy. Okay, So policies that are
Michael,
applied over here will not replicate over here.
yeah, but while we come to think about enforcing, at the very beginning we had seen some
Uh,
group policies which we had enforced. So if that is the
yeah.
case, then probably some
No.
policies.
Even the enforcing part will not work. No. Even the enforcing
Okay,
part will not work. You cannot
that's
enforce
because
policies from the root to the child.
because the domain is totally different.
Yeah, because the domain is totally different. Right now, what you need to know is this structure that I've built is known as a domain tree. This whole
Okay.
structure is known as a domain tree.
Yeah.
So you have a root domain, you have a child domain, and then you could have more child domains underneath. You could have Chennai.branch.test.com.